I recently got into VR for the first time through the use of a Windows mixed reality headset, specifically the Dell Visor. Although the headset was cheap, I was always on the fence about whether to upgrade my GPU to run this headset, as the R9 380 that I'm using falls just under the minimum spec for most VR games, and as such wanted to share my findings with anyone else in a similar situation. Now the Dell Visor features a higher res screen than the Vive, but runs the same games and as such is harder to drive, so any observations I make in this video towards performance will almost certainly be better on a HTC Vive than on a Windows mixed reality headset, due to the Vive's lower resolution screen. The first game that I played, and I know many people will want to play with their VR headset, is Beat Saber, and I can confirm that I had no issues with this game, even with it running at full resolution and with 2x MSAA anti-aliasing enabled, with the game maintaining a silky smooth 90 frames per second with no drops or hiccups, and I had a fantastic time playing this game on the R9 380 despite it being listed as under the recommended specification. The second game that I played with my headset is also incredibly popular, Pavlov VR. This game is much more intensive than Beat Saber and lists a 970 as the minimum card to run the game. However, again, the game ran at a silky smooth 90 frames per second with no drops in FPS on my R9 380, no matter how heavy the game got, and again, I had a great experience with no nausea or motion sickness present. The third game I tried was Valve's own The Lab, which again ran perfectly despite listing my GPU as being too slow to run the game. However, the one problem that I ran into in this title is that I could see the game dropping the resolution in certain games, such as Robot Repair. However, for the most part, the game remained crisp and clear at the full res, and the impact of this change was so small that I didn't notice this behaviour until writing this video, and on a headset like the Dell Visor, which is already higher resolution than the Vive, the game remains clear and entirely playable. The last game I tried was VR Chat. Now this is an in-development game and I expect performance to improve as the game matures. However, in its current state, I found the game to slow down below what I would deem playable, with frequent dips into the 40s and 50s, which in VR can and did make me feel quite motion sick. However, this game becomes playable again if the render scale slider in Steam VR settings is lowered, which will make the game look worse, and is as such not an ideal situation, as the game will become blurry and much less clear, with distant objects becoming much more blurry, which can be distracting in game. In conclusion, I would recommend that for simple games such as Beat Saber and The Lab, a GPU such as the R9 380 or 1050 will be more than enough for you to have a good experience, with a solid 90 FPS. However, for upcoming and more demanding games, a more powerful GPU such as the 1060 will be needed in order to maintain a steady 90 frames per second. And as such, to ensure your system is future-proof, I would buy a card with this power. However, if you own a card such as the R9 380 already, there is no reason to upgrade immediately. However, it is a good idea to consider an upgrade, as it will quickly become outdated in the next few years, leading to slowdown in games and motion sickness in VR titles. Thank you for watching, and I hope that this has given you some insight into whether virtual reality will run on your system.